Emil and his father Francois are arguing in the middle of a traffic bottleneck because Emil refused to come and they are running late as a result. Francois follows Emil as he exits the car because he eventually grows weary of his father's criticism. At that point, they observe an ambulance. Before the windows smash, there is a cry coming from within the trembling ambulance. As soon as the ambulance doors are forced open and a hybrid creature that is half man and half bird emerges and lands on top of a car, Francois pulls Emil into cover. The mutant fights and yells at the security guards as they rush to arrest him, frightening everyone on the route. The mutant escapes after managing to push the cops away from him. Emil's mother Lana, who is also changing into an animal, is being treated by a doctor when Emil and Francois visit the hospital later. It turns out that during the past 2 years, a large number of people nationwide have started to suddenly mutate into more savage forms, and they frequently turn out to be extremely violent. In an effort to find a cure, researchers are keeping the mutants in specialized facilities where they are sedated to keep them peaceful. The authorities are working hard to capture them all. The majority of people want the mutants imprisoned because they are afraid of them. Since his mother unintentionally scratched his face, Emil has grown scared of her, but Francois maintains that she is still family. For this reason, Emil does not want to visit his mother. Francois agrees right away when the doctor says Lana should be moved to the new, more sophisticated receiving facility that has opened in the south. In order to start over and be free from the criticism of those who are already familiar with Lana, he wants to go there with Emil. Emil stays away from Lana's room as soon as they walk in since he can see all the marks on the walls. Though Emil doesn't think she can understand anything they say, Francois does sit with her and converse with her in the hopes that it may help. After a few weeks, Emil, Francois, and their dog relocate to a new house near the forest. Emil soon begins attending school, and Nina bombards the teacher with questions during his introduction to the group. Emil makes the decision to lie, claiming his mother has passed away before revealing that lightning created his scar. The town is hit by a massive storm later that evening. Emil is awakened when the electricity goes off by the sound of lightning and wind. When Francois restores the power, the monster that had shocked him by peering into the house disappears from the window where he was checking. The next day, they receive an emergency call and rush to the local lake, where the police and the firemen have closed up the area. It turns out the storm has caused an ambulance to get off the road and crash into the lake, and when they see a cop retrieving the body of a creature, Francois fears the worst. This was the ambulance that was transporting all the mutants to the new center, and now half of them are dead while others have escaped. The cops hold down a desperate Francois as he yells for his wife, but Officer Julia assures him they haven't found Lana's body, so she must be somewhere in the forest. When they get back home, Francois begins to hang some of their clothes from trees around the property in the hopes that Lana will follow their scent. When the gym teacher assigns the students to play tug-of-war, Emil's squad as a whole collapses to the ground, saving just him. He is confident of pulling by himself throughout the duration of the match, allowing his teammates to rejoin him and win. Emil receives invitations to parties when everyone is astonished by his power. But Emil is too preoccupied examining his fingers, so he dashes back to his house and, while wailing in agony, uses some tweezers to extract something from between his nails. He's startled to find a few tiny claws, which indicates that he's slowly beginning to change too. Subsequently, he looks in the mirror at his back and observes that his column shape is also shifting. He tosses objects around the bathroom in a fit of rage before jumping in the tub to drown his humiliation. To soothe him, his dog joins him in the tub. As Francois is waiting for the meal, he runs into Julia, who tells him that they have given up looking since the government has promised to deploy troops. They hear some screams out of the blue since the patrons thought they saw a mutant. While Francois looks for the mutant to see whether it's Lana, Julia gives her comrades the order to leave the mall. The creature turns out to be a mutant squid that exclusively eats fish. She throws a carton of shrimp at them and flees as soon as she realizes she's been discovered. She keeps hurling strange food at Julia while she runs after her, but an experienced officer isn't deterred, so Julia charges at her to apprehend her. Francois notices another mutant who appears quite terrified when he peers beneath a food display, but he chooses not to call the police. Emil attends the party the next Friday and has a great time. His students are admiring the swords that a man bringing a presentation at the next midsummer celebration brought. Emil passes out from alcohol-induced nausea and tumbles out of his chair. When Nina gives Emil some medicine, he can't stop his body from kissing her hand to take it, which makes the other people panic out. Embarrassed and ashamed, Emil makes his way out of the forest after hearing other mutants' sounds. Emil awakens the following morning close to the lake, startled by the sound of a speedboat going by. He discovers blood in his mouth and spits it out right away before heading home and passing anti-mutant graffiti. When he gets home, he quickly uses the restroom and vomits up a feather, realizing that he had eaten a bird the night before. After that, Francois and Emil head into the forest to look for Lana, ignoring the police barricades. When Lana began to change, Emil asks his father how he felt, and Francois replies he was never afraid. She was his wife despite their few differences. Screaming out the windows as night falls and turning up the volume on Lana's favorite song. After spending the night in the automobile, Emil discovers his nails are changing once more in the morning. Emil follows his dog when he suddenly rushes off and finds a baby chameleon perched on a branch. The bird guy from the beginning then throws Emil to the ground and begins to strike him with his wings as his claws lacerate Emil's shoulder, causing it to bleed. But as soon as the man learns he's a mutant too and meets Emil's gaze, he freezes. Francois runs to his kid in response to Emil's screams, takes him by the arm, and tells the bird guy to back off. Emil declines when Francois says they're heading to the hospital once they get back in the car because they'll find out the truth. They nearly smash into a horse due to their fight, but Francois stops the car in time, and they realize they've arrived at the riding school. When Julia tells that a mutant attacked the horses and the police are there, Francois seizes the opportunity to beg for a favor. Emil receives the necessary stitches from an army nurse, who accepts his account about the dog biting his shoulder. Later, at home, Emil starts licking the bleeding area after taking out part of the stitches. Emil becomes alarmed when he discovers later in lab class that Nina is wearing a necklace with a feather similar to the one he vomited, but Nina corrects him right away. Then, the sound of the ferrets squeaking in their cage distracts him and he finds it difficult to focus. He finally loses it and demands at them to stop talking. Emil's bodily changes are making it difficult for him to ride his bike after class. Nina is doing her hardest to be encouraging, even inviting Emil to hang out at her house. Emil discovers a dead bird in the refrigerator while getting ready for a snack. Nina tells that she found the bird at her door following the party and stole its feather for the necklace. Emil understands that he left it for her as a present and didn't consume it. Nina is preserving it, intending to give it to the mutants as sustenance. Emil then enters the lake and, to the amazement of his neighbor, catches a fish with his hands. Then he searches for the birdman, who is repeatedly falling to the ground while attempting to fly. After learning that he goes by Fix, Emil leaves the fish for him. Fix's injuries from his unsuccessful flights are visible to Emil, who leads him to a lake where he suggests practicing in a safer area. Fix decides to practice thereafter. Emil removes every branch from the water to prevent further injuries. Emil leaves his bike in the forest and reports it stolen to his father after trying to ride it home in the evening but failing each time. Meanwhile, Francois finds out that the owner of the pub he works at has created anti-mutant t-shirts, which makes him feel very uneasy. After taking out the trash, he hears some noises coming from the backyard. Suddenly, a mutant grabs him and pushes Francois to the ground. When Francois tries to quietly comfort the chained creature, he discovers another mutant is fleeing. The mutant is revealed to be a relative of hers, who has been hiding it at work, as a co-worker pushes the creature back with an oar at that same moment. Francois and she attempt to lead the creature back into hiding, but the mutant gets scared and charges to the front of the bar, sending everyone fleeing in fear. Francois rushes into the jungle, thinking the other thing might have been Lana. There, he discovers his bear-shaped wife, who growls at him before taking off. Afterwards, Emil abruptly spits out a tooth during school lunch when he feels something in his mouth. He acts as though it was a baby tooth since the other people are creeped out. He goes to see Fix in the afternoon, who is having a lot of trouble learning to fly and keeps falling into the sea. Fix takes a break, and Emil examines his wounds and rips off the gauze covering his face. He finds that the doctors performed a terrible job on the surgery to remove the developing beak. To assist Francois in his search for Lana, Julia travels with him into the forest in the evening. They have to conceal every time they see a passing police vehicle. They eventually come up empty-handed, but Francois is startled to see Emil's bicycle. Francois finds the bathroom sink clogged upon his return home and decides to remove the pipe in order to drain it. When he discovers several claws and a lot of hair within, he finally realizes Emil is also evolving. Francois shows Emil the bike and the claws when he gets home, but Emil disputes everything. Emil wants to flee since Francois has locked up the house and won't let him in until he confesses. Francois, in a state of desperation, chases after him and throws him to the ground. Emil collapses and is embraced warmly. The following morning, Emil refuses to use a fork and eats straight from his plate, but Francois continues to be encouraging. In order to help Emil restrain his impulsive behavior in class, he also gives Emil some of Lana's medication. Then Francois examines Emil's mouth to make sure the fangs are currently hidden so others can't see them. In order to prevent noise from drowning out his heightened sense of hearing, he tells his son to trim his nails every day and to insert some cotton into his ears before covering them with hair. Finally, Emil is shown by Francois how to apply a hair removal cream to his body. Later that day, Emil walks outside the house and talks on the phone with Nina. When Nina screams in response to his request, he's relieved to hear her all the way from there. When Emil visits Fix the next day, he finds that he is no longer able to speak and can only make bird noises. Fix hops down a tree and climbs up again after Emil gives him a cuddle, showing that he can now fly and that he loves flying. Emil then visits the fair, where his father works. Emil should be hiding, so Francois is incensed to see him. A heated dispute breaks out, which soon turns violent. Emil growls and bites his father's shoulder, refusing to release it until Francois threatens him with a pair of scissors. Emil, distraught and perplexed, turns to leave and meets Nina, who extends an invitation for him to stroll through the cornfields. After sharing a kiss, the teenagers lie down to become intimate as things heat up fast. Nina notices the hair and the altered spine when Emil takes off his shirt, but she continues, claiming to have known all along. After that, they head back to the festival, where Emil uses the restroom only to be confronted by a student who had seen him and Nina on the field. Emil's ears ache instantly as the man uses a little device to emit a noise that only animals are meant to hear. Fearing for his life, Emil strikes the youngster, causing scratches on his face. The boy notifies the townspeople, who then get their firearms and summon the police while Emil instantly flees to hide in the field. A dog soon discovers him, but Emil frightens it off with a bark. When two males notice the dog running, they open fire in its direction, setting off the alarm. A group of people are chasing Emil as he runs as fast as he can, but just as one of them is ready to shoot him, Fix leaps in, pushes the man aside, and kills him with his claws. Fix then takes off into the jungle, inviting Emil to pursue him. Emil crosses the lake to stop them while a police car follows after them, but the irate men open fire from across the water, tragically hitting Fix. As soon as possible, Emil runs to his friend's side and sobs while holding Fix as he passes away. Francois and the hunters discover Fix's body a few minutes later, but Emil is nowhere to be seen. While the army trucks are moving into the forest, a big mutant is moving stealthily through the town. The following day, Emil hides in the forest and consumes any fruit he comes across. He ascends a tree in the dusk and adds his own howling to the cacophony of nocturnal animals. Emil hides in a cave when a storm blows through the area the next night. When a bear approaches him, he becomes alarmed until he realizes it's his mother. After giving each other a quick forehead bump to express their love, Lana turns to go, hoping her kid will follow in her footsteps. When Emil does so, he finds that many mutants, including the chameleon girl, are coexisting peacefully. He then witnesses flares shooting across the sky, indicating that the army has located them. The troops are utilizing the excruciating sound to make Emil and the other mutants try to flee and hide, but all they can do is fall to the ground in agony and be apprehended. The chameleon girl, who conceals herself by using camouflage, is the only one to escape. Francois later assists Emil in admitting that he was intoxicated and had wandered into the forest by accident at the police station. But Emil's hand is unable to hold the pen when he needs to sign the release papers, shattering the page. Before Emil has a chance to sound the alarm, Francois pushes the officer to knock him down after he gives him another one, and he can't help but sneer at him. While Francois seals the document himself and swiftly presents it to the receptionist before making a successful exit with Emil, the officer strikes his head and passes unconscious. After that, they hop in the car and head out of town. The police soon begin to pursue them, but Francois assures Emil that he won't go to any institutions and speeds over a fence to enter the forest. Then, with a happy howl, Emil obeys Francois' instruction to run.